Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee. Just saying, Michelle Millens, I see you in chat. Where's your Folgers? Anyway, also, we are sponsored by Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, a.k.a. Justin Snicker, award-winning composer of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found literally anywhere that good music can be found. Tonight, we welcome for the very first time, and man, I personally have been really excited about this, Mr. Brad Olsen to the show. He's going to be discussing his books on esoteric knowledge, information. Oh man, I love this stuff. Forbidden knowledge. Yep. Includes a little bit. Maybe if we're lucky, we can get him to talk about some Illuminati or some Cabal. His books cover just about everything. And I think as I started delving through the first one, because we did book him a while back, I was just sort of like picking up my jaw. Or, you know, you think you know stuff and then you really read something for somebody who really knows stuff. And it's just like, wow. So anyway.
I'd probably fall over then.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be mind-blowing for sure. But anyway, to participate in the show, you guys know the drill. Same, different Facebook locations, Outer Realm, Canada's Most Haunted, News on the Flip Side, Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover, News. I think we got News on the Flip Side. I'm pretty sure that's all we have for the UFO Paranormal, right? And then, of course, don't forget, you can catch us on... we are on International Public Radio on YouTube. We are also on UFO Paranormal Radio on YouTube. And while you are there, please subscribe. But better yet, please get a membership, because there's going to be content on there that you can't get any other way unless you are a member, including the Gray Zone Uncensored, which a lot of people ask me about because you can never find the archives. Well, now you're going to be able to start finding the archives, but it is a members thing only. It always has been. It was created for membership, so you only get to see it live. After that, it's gone. So sit tight, hang in there, and brace yourselves for a really amazing show. So, hello, Bubbles.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, good. It's been a very busy day, of course. You know, and of course, I did a show with Del Leslie.
Oh yeah, that's right.
At 7
that's
tonight.
Right.
With
How's
Lily
he doing?
Potvin and Kathy Bilski, and yeah, it was a good show. It was a good show.
Yep.
Yeah, Del's always a hoot. He's always a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun. So we all had a good time. It was just you know, like Laura Lee said, oh, Del's Angels. I was like, oh, that's a good one. So anyway, yeah.
Have you checked the color of anyone's wings? Just saying.
I know.
I just want to say hi to Michelle, Wayne, Jessica Coots. Hello, my love, my niece. And Janie, mwah, Lisa, Savoy, we're going to meet you soon.
We are.
Yeah. Hello to everybody. We'll give you a minute to settle in. We're a few minutes earlier than we normally are because
we are.
Michelle is taking reins. So this works. It works.
This is really good. I've been looking forward to this. I'm going to bring this up, show the book again once our guest gets on. But this is one of Brad's very first books. I don't know if you can see it with a
glare. Just down a little bit. Yeah, and closer if you can.
I see a glare when I do it.
Because you have a 20,000-inch screen on your computer there. And I've got a 13-inch, and then we're only like 8
how about this
or
one?
10.
It's a modern esoteric.
It's literally just bigger than my phone. Oh, modern esoteric.
Yes, and it's Beyond Our Senses. He's got 3 books in this series, and as you can see, I have a lot of little flippy notes on it. As I make my way through this, I've been perusing this for a while because he's been booked for a couple of months, and I really have to say, when I say be prepared to have your mind blown, be prepared. If I say it, be prepared for it, because
absolutely.
it was just like I said, you think you know things because there's all kinds of stuff floating around out there, right? Everybody's got their ideas of what certain things are. Then you start reading it and you're just like, oh, well,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Like,
That's like
it is
an author we know regarding the Knights Templar. It's the same kind of thing. You read and read, and then you pick up his book and you're like,
what?
He did
Mr.
all
Freddie
the walking
Silva, just a little
for
bit of a
me.
shout out there.
He
Yeah.
did all the research for me. I just have to read it. I love a book series. Wayne Mallows, love your book series. I love it because when I get attached to a book, there's nothing I love more than the story that continues, or a background or a prelude. I love all of that. So to know that there's a series, it almost feels like a limitless amount of information.
I know.
Yes,
I know.
it's very exciting.
It is very exciting.
My favorite kind of book, honestly. I love a good series. I do.
It's funny because Brad has many different books, and he's also a publisher of many books along this line. So I was just like, wow, this is good. I think we're going to be like, I don't even know what to ask because there's so much information. I want him to have the absolute most amount of time possible to get into all of this, because there's just so much information. Like I could see him, if he's willing, just to be like a repeat guest. I mean, honestly, just with one small section of this book, you could probably do a segment, and it keeps going.
His series, then, yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's definitely need to get it
beyond. It's beyond.
I want to get through my Vampire Tales first, because that is how I'm putting myself to bed at night. So Wayne, just imagine the kind of dreams that you have created when I close my eyes from reading your books. It doesn't stop. Like the last page I read just continues in my head, and then I wake up thinking I read it, and then I go back to the book and it's like, no,
it's a gift that keeps on giving.
It is. Right? It is. I love it.
It is. Okay.
I love it.
I am sending the link off to said guest right now as we speak.
I had a really crazy ET dream, but I'm not going to talk about it here. I'll talk about it with you tomorrow when we work, because it's just not going to happen on air in front of everybody listening. Just saying.
Now I'm on pins and needles.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And it's funny because I didn't remember the dream until I was surfing through my for researching for tonight and surfing through, and I saw something on ET and I went, all this started flooding.
Boy.
Yeah.
Oh. I like it. I can't wait to hear all about it. So I could say,
yeah, you need to get his books, Jessica. Actually, it's not, they're not scary. I don't know what to say. They're everything. I think Wayne touches on every genre. Yeah, he touches on everything. The books are so good.
Absolutely.
So good.
Oh, so why don't we get to the bio?
I'm going to read off a quick bio for those of you who don't know our guest tonight,
Sherry.
but you are learning all about him. Hi, Sherry Berry.
Hi.
Tonight's guest, an award-winning author, book publisher, and event producer. His keynote presentations and interviews have enlightened audiences at many a conference, dozens of radio and television shows. Brad is the founder and co-producer of the Weird Street Faire in the SOMA neighborhood of San Francisco. Please welcome Mr. Brad Olsen to our show tonight.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, hi. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to be with you guys on the Outer Realm.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, wow. You've got that radio voice going. Yeah,
I know. I like it. A radio voice. Deep and mesmerizing. I was just kind of carrying on about your book.
You see all her tabs? Now she's got me hooked. I'm going to buy one now.
Oh, no. It's excellent. I was just saying, you think you know so much, and then you start reading something from somebody who really knows so much. And it's like, oh my gosh. Like when I say mind blowing, I really do mean mind blowing. It's hard to even know where to start with something like this, because it makes me wonder if people are ready for it. And
it's the zeitgeist of the age. It is the Great Awakening.
Yes.
And on the back cover of my new book, Beyond Esoteric,
right back there.
All that is hidden will be revealed.
Just pull back just a little bit.
Yeah, there perfect. It is. Yeah, I know.
Perfect.
Got it right up on the back shelf right
and
there.
Can we get this book really quickly, and we'll let you do this again at the end, of course.
Yeah. Oh,
just because I'm there.
I have a whole bunch of illustrations, and sometimes I refer to them in the book too. So I may flip back and forth. And wow, look at that! That's all tabbed up.
Yeah, it is.
You wouldn't be the first. A few other people I know have showed me their book like that.
Well, she's a natural-born researcher.
Oh yeah. So for me, it's just, this is good. This is some delving. So I know we may mention that we wanted to cover book one first time around, and book one probably could fit in a few segments, but we're going to let you take it. I guess I'm most curious about, since it is your first time on the show, what led you to want to study this sort of thing? And because boy, you really got it down.
You want the 30-second reply or 3 minutes?
The show is yours. I always say when somebody comes in, it is as much your show as it is ours. So we're going to let you take it, and we'll jump in every now and then.
All right. Sounds good. Because they say you should always be able to condense something very complicated to a 30-second elevator pitch.
Excellent.
For example, if you wrote a screenplay for a movie and you're going up the elevator with a famous director, it's all the time you got. So how did I get involved with this? Yeah, well, that's why I asked how long do we have, because it's kind of a life pursuit, really.
Oh, 2 hours.
I started really very interested in especially extraterrestrials at a very young age. Right. Some of my earliest drawings were aliens, grays, and spacesuits and craft in the air. So I think I've had some kind of connection with this other realm.
Mm-hmm.
In Beyond Esoteric, I have ET stuff, especially in the second book, Future Esoteric, as well as Modern Esoteric, the one you have, which is subtitled Beyond Our Senses. So that is the book that basically starts at the beginning. If this were the elevator pitch, it starts with all the antediluvian civilizations, who we are on this planet, how things keep getting dated older and older and older, and you have the megaliths that still defy explanation, how they're built. There are ruins under the ocean. And as you can see in Modern Esoteric, I have a lot of images to back this up, as well as links that people can read and follow through on it. So I guess, and then the longer version of this is I took an opportunity as a younger man in my 20s to live and work abroad. And I was an English teacher in Japan for 14 months.
Wow.
And like all my trips have been self-financed. So I saved enough money and then just basically backpacked around the world for the next 2 years.
Very nice.
It was just one of the greatest educational experiences I could have ever given myself, as well as going to college for 5 years and getting a double degree in marketing and art. So now, doing shows like yours, I'm marketing the art. There you go.
I love it.
One of the few people that uses their degree.
I love it. I love it. As a world traveler myself, I can sympathize with you with being the best gift you can give yourself. Definitely are the memories and the knowledge and culture, the history, all of that. It's fantastic. And in doing so, you really unearth, pardon the pun, some amazing information. So where would you like to start with this? Because I read it, I went through it, and I'm just like, I'm fascinated with portals and orbs. And because people are funny with orbs because they think, oh, it's very natural. There's always somebody to debunk an orb. But I started realizing that these orbs are often seen around cryptids, and they're often seen around UFOs. And your theory really, I have never heard it. And it makes so much sense. So why don't we start off with the history of esotericism? See what I mean? We just go all the way through, because honestly, it's phenomenal.
I never should have looked up your books because I saw Sacred Places and I'm dying to talk about that now. I never should have done that.
and so that's basically, I'm glad you brought that up, Amelia, because the Esoteric series of books is really predicated upon the Sacred Places series of books that I did right before it. So having this experience of traveling around the world, and now I've been to all 7 continents, including Antarctica 3 years ago by sailboat. I mean, that's a whole story in and of itself. But I included all the information, all the esoteric information beyond esoteric, because that book was still under construction. It took me 6 years to put that one out. It took me 3 years to do modern esoteric, and also 3 years to do future esoteric. So I've been at this for a decade. And before that, I was still traveling quite a bit and going to these sacred places. So books in that series is Sacred Places Europe, Sacred Place North America, and Sacred Place around the world. And I even published a 4th book by a female author named Karen Tate called Sacred Places of Goddess. Ooh. And so having this global worldview, and then realizing the treatment that I gave to a lot of these sacred places in my book were only 4 or 5 pages max, because it was 108 per book. So I had to be judicious about how much space each book had to give it balance. So, for example, the Great Pyramid. 5 pages. Are you kidding me? There is so much more to that, and then you'll see that in modern esoteric, that even the map of where Giza is, and then going into perfectly positioned of all the continents of the world with the cardinal compass points so exact, and then so many other marvels that go into it. As you know, many books have been written on the Great Pyramid, but I included the more esoteric aspects of that monument and others. So it was kind of a springboard, doing the Sacred Places books into the Esoteric series of books.
I love it. I love it. So for those who have no idea what esoteric is, what is the base of it? What is it? Where did it originate? What's the deal with it?
And that's really where modern esoteric starts. The first section is called Lifeology. And if we could go all the way back to the dawning of consciousness, back from primitive wisdom, even the shaman of old would have held esoteric knowledge amongst their shaman class, or the Brahmins of India, and any group of people, including the mystery schools of ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. These were secret societies, the early formation of, that were collecting this kind of information and keeping it in a fraternal order of sorts. So the word esoteric literally means that information which is kept and held by a select few.
Right.
And we've seen this come all the way up through the ages, through history now, into Freemasonry and the secret societies that we hear about today, including the Illuminati and even the deep state and the secret government are in many ways esoteric cultures, because they collect the information and don't give it out to the rest of us. So the nature of the word actually changes when everybody starts to understand what these subjects. The word becomes exoteric. And then pretty much everybody knows it. So the cat's out of the bag. But I find the secrets, as you ladies do, so tantalizing. And that's where the real interest lies.
Okay. So where would you like to start?
Well, it's always good to start at the beginning, isn't it?
I say do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Well, starting at the beginning on this planet goes a long, long way back. It starts with very high-tech civilizations that once existed on this planet. And keep in mind, there were so fewer humans at that time, maybe only numbering in the few hundreds of thousands at certain times. In fact, when the Toba eruption on the island of Sumatra exploded, the nuclear winter that was created, so this was about 8,000 years ago, maybe even triggering the end of the Ice Age, there were only about 70,000 humans on the whole surface of the planet. Wow. There were as many humans that could fit in some of our largest sports stadiums, interspersed around the whole planet. And so even before that are the civilizations that Madame Blavatsky spoke of, the root races that came from different parts of the planet, and the earliest being the Hyperboreans. And then this then goes back 1 million or more years. And this is why you find, and I showed the graphic of the interconnected gears found in a seam of coal in Siberia, deep underground. And there's so many of these out of place artifacts, or UPAs, as are commonly known. And I'll be speaking at a conference at the beginning of April up in Mount Shasta with Michael Primo, one of the greatest, one of the masters of all this. So one of the great things about speaking at conferences and going up there and meeting my colleagues is this interaction, this exchange of information. So in many ways, we're kind of dealing amongst ourselves in this esoteric. But I'm totally transparent. I believe everything should be known and no more secrets. And that would be the age of transparency if we can get there. But in the meantime, there is a concerted effort to not allow humans to know their real history. And that's why when you say, where shall we start? Well, we should start at the beginning, because this is the first time that, this really important information is being withheld from us, that there had been high-tech civilizations here. And we've all heard of Atlantis, and we've all heard of Lemuria. And then, as I said, even further back is Hyperborean. So Madame Blavatsky said that there were 5 high civilizations on this planet leading up to ours. And ours started with the Osirian Empire in Egypt. And that was with the know-how and many of the survivors of Atlantis.
Wow.
And that's why you have the Great Pyramids are the most perfect and still standing and the oldest, because they are of the Osirian Empire. And I went to Egypt. I think I climbed to the top of the Great Pyramid on a full moon in 1993. Bunch of youthful indiscretions, right? I can't.
Of course,
It's mind-blowing experience. There's another story.
It's just the 2 of us. Go right ahead.
It's fine. It's okay.
And all your friendly listeners. Yeah, no,
sure.
I'm like I said, I'm transparent.
Don't worry about that. Right.
But I rode a horse all the way to Saqqara with my girlfriend, and we saw all these other pyramids in the state of ruin. And yet you could see the Great Pyramids for dozens of miles away. They're just so amazing. So you have this kind of high technology in place during the earliest times of human existence. It really begs the question, what did they know? How did they know it? And what did they do with that knowledge? And that is what I think we see with the remains of all the megalithic sites. That really defy explanation. These 30, 50, 100-ton slabs perfectly conjoined together.
Well, pyramids are being uncovered pretty much everywhere. I mean, look at the one in Russia, which I figure is like 20,000 years old. I'm just like, that to me was amazing. They're finding them under the water. They're finding them, oh no, that's a mountain range. And then they realize as they start excavating, oh no, wait, it's a pyramid.
Why are they hidden though?
Well, I think they just get overgrown. But I mean, hidden, how many times has this planet repopulated itself and destroyed itself?
I meant the information. Why is it hidden from civilization?
Yeah,
why is it hidden from the rest of us? Seriously.
Sure.
What is so bad?
Happy to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my invitation.
In America, and I got into this when I was working on my Sacred Places North America book, and I was driving cross country 4 times and going to all the mound sites and talking to the curators and museum people. A lot of people are in denial, but you look when you go to these sites, they'll just say, oh, we don't have any of those relics. But you could even go back to the newspaper articles 50, 80, 100 years ago when some of these digs produced giants, produced warriors wearing a suit of armor in the case of Spiro mounds, and all kinds of implements, these out-of-place artifacts, which are just so conveniently swept away. So to answer your question, Amelia, why would all of these subjects pertaining to our far distant past and relatives, let's keep in mind that we still have a connection here, even with the giants, right? Because some of them have mitochondrial DNA. That means their mother was human. Their father, isn't it interesting? The Star Child skull that Lloyd Pye was carrying around and got DNA tested, as well as many of these elongated skulls would have 30 to 30% larger cranial capacity right there in their head, meaning, and so many things that are different from human skulls, much 30% larger eye sockets, larger spinal column area, and no central suture, which all human skulls have. In my new book, I have a chapter called Suppressed Human Origins, and I'll just show you some here. An example of some of the giants are just ginormous. I mean, you can tell that is no human skull.
No.
And you can do cranial deformation in any number of ways, but you just take what you have and then move it around, right? You cannot add 30% more brain mass.
No. Even squeezing it, because everybody says, oh, no, they just did skull binding. It's like, no, I don't think so. I don't think you can elongate it to that point. But I believe the ancients emulated their visitors or their gods, right? So
I'm bringing this up just to try to finish answering the question. I think when a lot of these mounds were uncovered in North America, as well as Europe before that, and they're finding these giants and out-of-place artifacts. Keep in mind, America and Europe, very Christian countries for many, many centuries, right? It's only until now people are kind of questioning things. But even our grandparents were very religious people. And there was this whole notion called manifest destiny when our settlers were going across the West and basically taking the land, and 40 acres and a mule that was supported by the government. Native Americans were considered savages, that their culture was not worth preserving, and they didn't want to recount it as history of this continent. So there was a wanton disposal of so many things historic that just got thrown away. And it was mainly, and this is the answer to your question, why was this stuff being covered up? And this also includes ancient civilizations. It didn't really go along with the stories of the Bible that most people believed in, at least the leaders of this country that were the generals and so forth that were actually doing the kind of work that Manifest Destiny provided this country. But it was also very difficult to explain. How were giants living in this continent? And then maybe did they have some kind of claim to this land as well as the Indians did? So they wanted to just try to say, okay, all bets are off. We're here now, and we're going to just take what we want. And if you're in our way, we'll make sure you're not anymore. And so genocide happened in North America long before the Holocaust and many other genocides around the world. I mean, it's just, that's part of why we're living on Prison Planet, is because so much has been kept to us, and because we're just provoked into fighting each other and killing each other all the time. And
it's
that
a good
is
distraction.
what has to change.
It's a good distraction from actually trying to seek out the truth. So as we go further back, we get into the Anunnaki. Because let's face it, all the ancient Sumerian texts and all of this information has been found. Now you can't really ignore that, as sure some would love to have tried. So do you think we stem and come from the Anunnaki, as some believe?
I think that's exactly what I've just been talking about with the giants.
Yeah, right.
But there's just so many examples of massive footprints, massive finger bones. There's Michael Tellinger, a colleague of mine. This is a photo I took in the Sacred Valley of Peru. There are museums where you can see the elongated skulls.
Right.
What you're looking at is something that is human-like, but not quite human, and in many cases much, much larger than we were. Yes. So we're just this little blink of an eye in this time period that we think is our history.
Right.
But it goes so much further back, and it encompasses many different species, not only talking about giants, but there's also dwarf civilizations too. And for some reason, academia is much more apt to carry a story about the dwarves. So they're the tribe in the island of Flores in Indonesia that the fossil record was discovered that tall, full-grown adults were only 3 feet tall, about half the size of us humans. So that was accepted in Nature magazine. But these digs, even some recently, still finding new bones. Why isn't that headline news in this country? So there are still blockades on the accepted history and what is being allowed to
and what's hidden
presented to the people. Yeah.
Smithsonian was destroying
Well, that's Smithsonian Gate. Yeah, there's a big controversy over that.
Smithsonian Gate. I'm still waiting for my invitation to the Vatican Library.
Yeah, me too. I'll go with you.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on that.
Let's do an outer realm field trip. Maybe we'll.
Oh, right.
Storm the gates.
Yeah, let's do it.
The Vatican. So we get down there.
Or you could just remote view it.
Yeah, no, I want to feel and touch it. I want to touch all of it. I don't just want to see it. I want to touch it. I want to smell it. I want to experience everything. And I want days so I could go through all that stuff.
I don't know. It does take
without interference. That's all I'm saying. I'm not asking for much. I don't see what the problem is.
Not much.
You know, I mean, my uncle's a deacon. It still doesn't work. Can't even get in through the back door. So. But yeah, it would be an incredible journey, wouldn't it, to spend a few days in the Vatican Library? My God.
Wouldn't it though? It'd probably lock you in there though. So Sherry says
turn off the oxygen, just like Da Vinci Code. Yes. Hi, Sherry. Sherry says control is power. They have to keep the mindset ignorant in order to effectively control what we believe to be truth.
Yeah, we read them out. I know you can see them, but there's a lot of people who are just listening around the world who actually aren't physically watching.
Yeah.
Or on FM radio, which they can't physically watch. So
no,
I believe, like Tamara says, knowledge is power. I could see, they don't want us feeling overly powerful. So let's backtrack again and talk about all these power spots, why they were so important, why everybody built monuments and on power spots, portals, orbs. Let's just maybe jump into that for a bit.
Sure, and that's also starting at the beginning.
Yes.
Why is it that some of the oldest monuments on the planet are pyramids? And why is it that you find pyramids virtually on every continent? The one continent that I'm not entirely sure of yet is Antarctica, and one that I study quite fitfully because I've been there, and I do a conference talk called The Hidden Anomalies of Antarctica. But there are 3 ranges I know of, and I could go there on Google Earth and show you guys. I know where the Shackleton Range has the one that we've all seen the pictures of. But I was talking to an outfitter that takes trips around Antarctica who assure me that you can go anywhere you want with enough money. But I do know there are definitely no-fly zones in Antarctica as well, so not quite everywhere. But
and why is
you
that?
could go to these pyramids, for example, because they say they fly over them all the time.
Yes.
They leave Punta Arenas, Chile, fly over the Drake Passage and land at a place called Union Glacier. And then they'll wait for the weather to take. Most people want to go hike the tallest mountain in Antarctica.
Yes.
It's called Vinson Massif. And it's not super tall, only about 14.5. But people who have done Everest and Mount McKinley, for example, and get the big ones out of the way, they're like, let's round out all 7 continents.
Yeah.
And so they fly
take
over
an
this
afternoon
in Antarctica all the time.
Right.
But they call it a nunatak, which is just an attractive mountain poking through the ice. So I asked them, well, haven't you landed there? Haven't you gone and taken a sample or climbed it or anything? No, we just fly over it. So I think the jury's still out on the Antarctica one. But Australia has a step pyramid called Gympie. Asia has pyramids near Cheyenne, China.
And China's got over 400 pyramids.
Yeah, and many have been ruined and lost.
Yes.
The most newly discovered may also be the very oldest, and that is the Bosnian pyramid.
Yes. Oh, really? How old did they figure that one
Sam is a colleague of mine. We had tables next to each other selling books at a conference 2 years ago. And
wow.
Hey, Brad, you be my guest. Anytime you come, I give you the tours of everything. We show you everything.
Very nice. Making good connections.
Bosnia, that would be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
They're beautiful people. They're beautiful people.
In Africa, and you have the earthen mounds in North America.
Yes.
Including Cahokia in Illinois, where I'm originally from.
Right.
And has a base larger than the Great Pyramid. But since they didn't have rocks to work on in the Midwest, they built them with earthen material, which are still there. However, many have been ruined. The earthen mounds, which contained these upas and giant bones, were just plowed over. They, again, were a nuisance. Get it out of the way. Any of this Indian prehistory doesn't matter. If you want to sell it on the roadside, good, just get rid of it. That was kind of the mentality back then. And of course, there are pyramids in Central America as well as South America, Lima, Peru, and then Tiwanaku has a step pyramid as well. So pyramids on all continents. And it turns out, as you pointed out, Michelle, they are at energy ley line nodes on this planet. It's like a leaf has veins in it, and where the veins cross over are these potent energy points, yin and yang energy, also in the planet Earth itself. And if you can just imagine what the planetscape would have looked like before any development, perhaps our primitive ancestors would have been able to see a lot more clearly where it is that this pyramid was going to be built. Or another example is, starts out with a grotto, which then becomes a pagan shrine, which then becomes an early chapel, which then becomes a church, which then becomes a massive Gothic cathedral. That's exactly the storyline at Chartres, France.
They just stick to and build over these same
upon a
spots.
sacred place. That's right.
So what makes these power spots? I mean, you can understand a pyramid. I mean, a lot of people believe they have a lot of power because of the shape alone. And, you know, did they have ET intervention? Because, I mean, back then, let's face it, it's not like you can see from above to line these up with certain, you know, constellations. Do we think that are they built by humans? I guess is what I want to ask, because it's a question. It's a big one. A lot of people like, oh no, humans could not possibly have built these. And mainstream archaeologists will say, no, of course they did. So let's just go with the Great Pyramid for argument's sake, because it's the one everybody knows. Do you think they had help in building it, or that it was built by civilization way, way back? I mean, let's face it, the Sphinx is way like older than they think. Are the pyramids also?
Exactly. I saw a very compelling documentary suggesting that the middle pyramid at Giza was the first constructed, even though the Great Pyramid has the internal structure more than the middle pyramid does, and in so much contains more mystery. But the original Valley Temple, starting with the Valley Temple, which would have been right on the banks of the Nile, is built with massive megalithic structures. And that has a causeway up to the middle pyramid. That is also where the Sphinx is. So the same weathering marks on the Sphinx, which Dr. Robert Schoch and John Anthony West conclusively determined must have been created by water erosion when Egypt and the Sahara Desert was a jungle and was getting quite a bit of precipitation, which it barely gets any these days.
Right, it's way
so
back.
This Valley Temple right next to the Sphinx, also massive, some of the largest hewn stones in Egypt, and the same type of watermarks as the body of the Sphinx has, suggesting, that there are, as I mentioned earlier, the predecessor to the pharaonic era in Egypt, the Assyrian Empire, including the pyramids themselves and their orientation, almost a dead ringer to Orion. And so perhaps the progenitors of the pyramids and that technology worked with humans. Perhaps they were part Anunnaki or part extraterrestrial humans. You know, humans were supposed to have had 12 DNA strands originally, that we got those worked out of us through interbreeding and so many other things. But there's so many weird things about the human genome too.
Oh, please, let's get into that. That's a whole other one. Yes.
Because this is the Rh negative blood factor. Do you guys know about that?
Oh, yes. I absolutely do. But
well, maybe
I really
you tell
like
me
how
what
you
you know about it, and I'll add to it.
Oh, no. This I like you. I'd like you to do it. But, you know, very, very versed in it. So I can definitely.
I'm living it. So
I'm living it too.
Yeah.
I'm Rh negative blood type family, as all three of us.
Yes.
A lot of people are. Who find this stuff interesting, right? Don't you see that as well?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And my relatives who also are the ones who are following this stuff closer than the other ones that aren't. So as you know, or just to give your listeners a little background, Rh negative blood is derived from an abbreviation of the rhesus monkey, which has positive, all of them 100% Rh positive. So all the great apes positive. So there is some truth to Darwin's theory that we did rise up from the apes. But the monkey wrench, funny that term, folks, monkey wrench, is this Rh negative blood, because what that means is devoid of any of those markers to the great apes. Okay, so then, well, where'd that come from?
Right.
And how is it that there's certain pockets of it where there's high concentration and other parts of humanity where it's virtually
like the Basque people,
everybody's Rh positive.
Yeah.
And Rh negative blood can transfer through generations, much like our eye color or hair color. You can have a kid that has brown eyes and brown hair, even though you have blue eyes and blonde hair, but then their kids will have that trait as well as Rh negative blood. Right. So what makes it really weird to me, this is the kicker, how we may have this interbreeding going on with the human species. That mothers who are pregnant, mothers who are Rh negative blood, pregnant from a man who is Rh positive and carrying an Rh positive baby, if it matches the blood or when it's born, some of that blood contaminates the baby, they die.
Yes.
Well, now there are treatments where you can prevent that. But my Uncle Douglas died at 5 days old.
Yeah.
Because they did not have treatment for it when he was born.
I remember having
what
to
they call the blue
shots.
baby.
Yeah, you have to have globulin shots at 6 months pregnant.
Right. Yeah. And so you can prevent it. Didn't have that 75 years ago, though.
No, it's true. That's true. It's interesting how the body would just instinctively purge out or try to kill that foreign, like we're Rh negative, and you enter in something that's, let's say, the positive, and you can literally, like, we would miscarry that as a negative female. We could literally miscarry that baby. So like, it's like the body is just like pushing that out. It's like, you have to think, like, where did that come from? Where a mother would instinctively, like, our system was just repel that and kill it, basically.
And it happens with no other animals. Only
no other blood type either.
Wow, yeah.
That's pretty weird. So to me, that suggests that we have several different DNA strands mixing in and out of the human race. So an example I give is a horse and a mule, or a horse and a donkey can mate, and their offspring is a mule. And it's a different species. Okay, but it was co-joining between the two. Just as I said, many of the giants showed that they had mitochondrial DNA, mother human, father unknown DNA. So, and then you brought up Anunnaki earlier, Michelle, and maybe this is what it all ties into. And their offspring were the Nephilim, and they were the men of renown, and the giants written about in Bibles and so many other ancient texts, not just in the Western documents. And of course, you can see it in the hieroglyphic writing of Egypt, as well as their pictograms of clearly giants. Any little humans are mainly their servants. So,
Amelia, can you get this one?
I got it. Wayne says that lends a lot of credence to the adage of not marrying outside your class. It was likely a simplified way of ensuring the negative blood type stays pure.
That's an interesting perception for sure. Yeah. All the interbreeding, and a lot of people believe the royal family are all negative blood types.
They are.
So
why do you think they call them blue bloods?
Right?
Why do you think it's blood brothers or blood in the family line? Oh, they take their bloodlines very seriously. That's a great observation, Wayne. Yeah. And I would agree that you can't just say, "Oh, I've fallen in love with Rockefeller or Rothschild, and we just love each other, and we're going to get married." No, it doesn't work that way.
No, you have to keep the blood pure.
Aren't they still working that way?
Yeah. Well, in India, it's the caste system, and it very much works that way.
Yeah, but didn't Nikki Hilton marry a Rothschild? Just like not long ago.
As long
the last 10 years.
I'm pretty sure she did. Blood type, probably
they have children
together.
Fine. They have children together.
Oh, maybe she was Neggy, yeah.
Oh, I'd say the Hiltons are probably definitely. And we had a guest on the show that basically said, "Oh, do you know that every Hilton hotel has what they call a travel room, which they can just interdimensionally just pop out?"
Did not know that.
I'd have to see it for myself.
I'll hook you up.
I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people. I need
girl.
to be in that room to believe it.
Yeah. Apparently everyone does. So I thought, But getting to know her a little better after the fact.
It's got to be the higher end ones, because some of their hotels are just average hotels. Mind you, maybe that's where they are. It's just the average hotels.
I don't know. Hidden in plain sight, as they say.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay, so let's get on to why don't we talk about bloodlines a little bit more, and where do you think the negative blood type comes from? Because you hear that I have to say conspiracy because it starts somewhere, that it comes from, let's say, the reptilian extraterrestrial race. Greys. They seem to be the two that are the most active, I think, on the planet, according to many that we know of anyway. I'm sure, without getting into it's a whole ET show, I'm sure we can do, because we know there's like all kinds of them here. But the belief is from people that have been on the show and research that they believe it could very well be reptilian. And I think that's where you get a lot of the conspiracy and the joking around about the royal family are a bunch of reptilians, and I'm just like, I need that.
Well, I'll let you know that the people who claim they have been abducted by aliens are almost always Rh negative. So they obviously want that particular blood type, especially the universal donor, the O negative, which my dad is. And he has been his entire life the most sought after blood type.
Yeah.
And so this is really weird. So my dad can donate to any single human being on this planet. But if he were to get any other blood other than O negative, it would kill him.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. Are you O neg?
Yeah, emergency surgery was when they found out at Toronto General. They're like,
yeah,
she's losing a lot of blood. We have to do this quick.
Yeah, it's frightening.
Well, some people that are O negative will even donate their own blood to just have it on reserve.
Yeah. It was a terrible circumstance the way it happened, because when I was younger, nobody checked your blood unless you were going to surgery, and they didn't record it with the family doctors back then. It was a different time. So when I was 18 and I had this ovarian cyst just coming out of nowhere, it was like, she's lost a lot of blood. We have to give her transfusion, which was around the same time of the AIDS thing, which is why I will never forget it, because I had to be tested over and over again, because the tainted blood thing happened in Toronto shortly after my surgery. So it was a scary time. And to learn all of that, I was just in shock. They came up to talk to me and they said, you need to know that when you're, older, I was only 18 or 19. When you're older and you want to have a child, you have to get what's called a globulin shot. And that's how I learned about all of that, So now it's a different time, But back then we were clueless with blood types.
Well, I don't think people even knew. Like with my parents back when, I'm not going to date myself, but the fact that they were both negative blood types and somehow found each other when there was only 3% of the entire planet. Wow. The doctor was gobsmacked going, how the hell did you two even find each other? And it's true. But now at least we're like, what would you say? 15% population? 20%?
Yeah, it's about 15% of the world population are each negative.
We're getting up there.
My dad was really special.
Of those come from Northern Europe, the Celtic areas. The Basque region has the highest, and that's the area between France and Spain and the Pyrenees Mountains.
Yeah.
And also down in the Atlas Mountains of Morocco, where they have blonde hair, blue eyes, fair skin. Mm-hmm. They don't look anything like the rest of the African population.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And
they say
you asked,
Scotland
where did they come from? Well, I told you that they had a propensity to be abducted. Right. In my book, Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses, there's a chapter called Blood of the Gods, and I get into all the blood type weird anomaly stuff. Well, Edgar Cayce said he thought that they were the survivors of Atlantis. We're all RH negative. Remember I told you that originally humans had 12 strands of DNA. Mm-hmm. But we would be way too powerful and uncontrollable if our pineal glands were uncalcified and we were astral traveling and maybe even doing this interview telepathically.
Right.
We have these superhuman abilities that have also been suppressed. That's why I include those in esoteric subject matter.
Right.
But
yes,
so
you do. Yeah. Great detail.
We had to have been messed with. That is, the survivors of Atlantis, they basically took the men out of the picture and allowed some of the proto-humans, such as Neanderthal and Homo erectus, to also intermingle into the bloodline. That's where we get the RH negative or positive from. Because every person who's RH positive marker has a direct descendant down this evolutionary tree to the primates, to the great apes. And so they watered down our DNA primarily that way, by taking the males out of the equation, allowing the females to mate with other species, and then subsequently every generation following was 2 strands. Well, now something amazing is happening, and I described this in Modern Esoteric. The very first 3-strand DNA humans are now being born and can be studied. And they too are RH negative, and they have these incredible abilities. Yeah, right. And so get this, not only that, but all the 2 strands, like us, are showing little knobs, little nobules, getting ready to do that big
wait, what?
joining into 3-strand DNA humans. Maybe even in our lifetime, if there is this great awakening, this kind of thing could really happen. If we were to shift to the 5D, you just go right beyond the 4D. The 4D, especially the lower realms, that's the ghosts, that's
all of that
weird demonic entities. It's been described as you're driving down in a bad part of a city and you take the wrong off ramp and you go through a really bad neighborhood and you're just looking with
4D,
shock and awe.
4D.
But it's not a place you want to get out and explore or stay there a long time. You want to just keep going right to the 5D.
No.
And so if that were to happen, if we were to get enough humans to have this proverbial 100th monkey effect, it could just go boom, just like that. A big leap in evolution within a lifetime.
That quickly. Wow.
Yep.
I think people are awakening. You just see it. I mean, there's so much division right now that's being created, but every now and then you just read these stories and you see people like they're just getting it. And it's kind of nice to see, because I think there's something going on out there. Maybe it's just people who keep pumping things into the collective that are eventually you're going to get it. You're not going to understand where these ideas are coming from, but somehow they're going to make sense. There's a couple of here, Amelia.
Hi, Trish. Trish Mo has her own show called The Missing Piece on our network. It's brand new, so don't forget to check it out. What night does it air? Is it Monday or Tuesday?
It's on Mondays.
Monday nights on UPRN Radio right here. Yes. You can find her. And if you're interested and you want to catch up on the last 2, just check out YouTube and find her there. Trish Mo asks, do you think the marriage license requirements for blood tests back in the 70s that was stated for disease, in quotation marks, unquote, were actually testing for RH factor?
What's happening in the 90s too, I can assure you.
That I do know.
Yeah. That would make sense.
Government's overreaching and trying to get as much information about all of us as they can. Yeah, especially RH negative blood types. Oh, I think there's a vested interest of someone wanting to know that.
Yeah, but those you and me 1, 2, 3s, you should be hesitant about that in Ancestry.com. Anywhere where you're throwing your DNA, you should be really, really afraid.
Hypnosis.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. You should be afraid.
Okay, so let's kind of think outside of the box a little bit, since we're on to this whole esoteric thing. And from the book again, I can't show it enough, because I really think you guys should get it. When I say mind-blowing, I mean mind-blowing. It's a wake-up call is what it is. It really is a wake-up call. I've always known about archons since just researching the Gnostics, the texts and such. And I don't think people have any real inkling as to, when you hear archonic states, it's like a real like draconian type control. It really is. And people will maybe mistake this. Maybe the religious term would be considered demonic for those who think of religion. For ufologists, they'll say, no, it's an archon, or it's a draconian, or it's a reptilian. Or what are your thoughts on that? These beings that control from above, outside of our space, but yet they seem to have quite a hold on us, to the point of alternate consciousness, possibly.
That's exactly it. They're energetic parasites that feed off of our negative energy. And one of the reasons why planet Earth has been so enturbulated and engulfed in wars and poverty and malnourishment and abduction, child trafficking, to adrenochrome, to all the nasty is basically we're livestock in more ways than just our flesh and blood. But energetically, we are a food source to this archonic network.
Right.
And if there was one thing that I could impart to people, the takeaway from this interview, is you have to understand that they're out there, and they will feed off of your negative emotions. They love that. Why do you think we're always in a state of war? Why do you think happy people aren't really affected by them? Because you have to basically step away from them in so much that you don't feed them.
Right.
So it's been said that you brought up the reptilians and the grays before. Reptilians, yes, they're also a locust type species that do not want to ascend to 5D. They've been given many, many opportunities, won't do it. They prefer to just rape and pillage and go planet to planet, as they've done and as they are doing here. The gray aliens have many different species, and there are many species of reptilians. But let's just keep it here on planet Earth.
Right.
The main grays that are here are inner terrestrials. So notice how we've always thought, oh, look to the skies. The craft are going to come down. They're extraterrestrials. No. Well, what if they're right here, right now, and they were born on this planet in the same way that we were? So that is their workaround of the Prime Directive. That's how they've been able to do what they've done for so long. They're not violating these universal laws. Well, in a way they are, because they've overreached, but they are of this planet underground. Okay. So we already know there's over 100 deep underground military bases. So just on that basis alone, know that there's an underground network. But there are also these legacy bases that are very, very old. And I'll tell you a few. There's one in the Solomon Islands. There's one in the Aleutian Islands. There's one in Mount Shasta. And there's one under Dulce, New Mexico. And that's the one I feature most prominently in Beyond Esoteric, because that's where a lot of abducted people end up against their will and are part of human experimentation. So what's very important to understand is that to these archons, some of us do become a food source to them. Reptilians, for example, prefer adolescents before we get too many toxins in our body. And yes, they do have a taste for human flesh. The grays, who are all test tube created, that's why they don't have a soul. They're born here in test tubes at Dulce, New Mexico. They need certain fluids from our body. And Phil Schneider even talked about this in 95, and I profile him in Beyond Esoteric.
Right.
The strange story of Phil Schneider, and saying that they were extracting adrenochrome and other glandular fluids.
Which the
that's
elite
why
do.
With cattle mutilations,
yeah,
one of the commonalities is they have removed all the red blood cells and they core out the soft tissue with laser precision and laser tools.
Mm-hmm.
And those bodies of 1,800-pound carcasses of bulls are found in a snowy meadow with no footprints, as if they've fallen from the sky, and sometimes have broken branches underneath them from hitting the tree from coming down. So this is happening, and this is what it's all about, that there is a concerted effort to keep humans blind of this so they can keep feeding off of us. As soon as we wake up and understand that we're not going to take this anymore, it's game over for them, including the archons. And that's why with the Great Awakening, it's also a changing of the human mind to the point where we can eliminate depression, despondency, anger, hatred. I do hope and believe that this is possible in our time. Yeah, we'll put it under quotes. But if this great shift is possible into the 5D, if we're going to just skip right over the archonic realm in the 4D and just we're getting out of here,
bowl them over.
It's over, and that is the human ascension, and that is that point where we may start adding strands of DNA as well. Right. But I do believe it's a group effort here, that we're all in this together. We're all the human race, right?
Exactly.
Keep this. Here's something that you guys will find a little perspective interesting, and this goes along the lines of lifeology and modern esoteric. Consider humans right now, at this day and age in history. We have people living off planet. We have humans that are on bases and in space stations that are humans. They're still humans, but they're out in space, right? And even new children being born off planet. Wow. At the same time, right here on Earth, we also have Stone Age people living in the deepest depths of the Amazon or in some of the highland valleys of Papua New Guinea. So we have Stone Age humans living concurrently with a breakaway civilization. And then all of us humans somewhere in between. I mean, that is perspective about the incredible age that we find ourselves in. And if we were to do this great leap forward, this great shift, does that mean all the Stone Age tribes would all of a sudden just be activated and have an awareness that there's some humans like us off planet?
Wow, I mean, that's a whole other show. That literally is a whole other.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, we should have been able to evolve. You know, if you look at like Gene Roddenberry's, you know, because they believe he met with the Council of Nine,
right,
et cetera, and that Star Trek was a way to bring us in to the mindset that this is a possibility. This can happen. You know, when you think about that, we have been suppressed to the point of we should be at least a little bit closer to that. I mean, everybody should be, not just certain people. And we're not. We're just kept in this, like you say, the prison planet, under the thumb of certain people. So that will take us a little bit onto another level. I'm trying to cover as many parts of this book as possible because it's really fabulous. I really enjoyed this book. It's so full of information. So let's jump away, you know, from the archons, and let's hit the powers that be, the ones that are working with these beings, getting into, I mean, they hold all the ancient secrets of magic, of the occult. And I'm going to say it. The church, a specific church, are okay. Dang it! I'm a recovering Catholic. I'm just going to throw it right out there. No, I completely believe that they are the guardians, self-proclaimed guardians, because they've held this information from everyone, and I truly believe that they're all in on this and keeping us literally suppressed. We are beings of light, having a human experience that we're not getting the full potential of a human experience. We're slaves.
Yes. And the second section in modern esoteric is called control. And that's what gets into the secret societies, the shadow governments, the mystery schools of old, where this esoteric wisdom was kept and revered and hidden from the masses. Yeah, they don't want us all to know.
Right.
Look, it's still an old boys network, and it's a club, like George Carlin said, and you're not in it. Neither am I.
No,
I miss
but
him.
we can look with amazement from outside and try to make sense of what they knew and how they knew it, how they used it. But it has been to really lock down the consciousness of the human race for as long as possible. And this also has to do with who we are as spiritual beings inhabiting these human bodies time and time again. I was very, very fortunate to have spent several years living in Asia and learning about Buddhism, Hinduism, reincarnation, looking at all the great philosophers and markers along the way that we can get a worldview, and finding that the Eastern philosophies really had it going on. They were much more advanced. But we have masters who have come through the West as well, like Jesus Christ. He had some amazing things to say. In fact, one of my favorite books is called The Parallel Teachings Between Buddha and Jesus.
Yes.
And when somebody speaks the truth, no matter what language, what time, what century they said it, the truth always resonates. So an example I give is consider the truth kind of like a pole, right? It's a constant. It's always going to be there. The laws of gravity are always there. They're always immutable on this planet. It is the way it is. Now, you can wrap it up a whole different ways. In fact, you can even distort gravity with UFOs. That is one of the ways they're able to manipulate gravity and fly. But just as a UFO will be gone in a moment, the pillar of truth stays there. And so this is what we see they have done with controlling the human race, is to wrap it up in so many different ways, lipstick on a pig, all that stuff just falls away eventually, and you just have the pillar of truth. That's why those parallel teachings between Jesus and Buddha are so potent, because they're true no matter when you say it or who said it. So in the same way, you have these mystery schools of old, the ISIS cults out of Egypt, and then they were just given different names when the Greeks and then the Romans adapted them. So keep this in mind. And this is how old this control structure is. Back in the time of the pharaohs in Egypt, thousands of years ago, the pharaoh was considered a living god. He was a man. He was alive like you and me. Even women could have been pharaohs, Hatshepsut, Cleopatra, and others. You would have been revered as a living god, okay? And this went on for thousands of years. So then Europe took over, and the Roman Empire conquered the entire Mediterranean basin, all the countries around it and beyond.
Right.
Then the Caesar in Rome was a living god, and he was referred as such. So you better obey what Caesar's orders were, right?
Right.
Well, now what do we have today? We have the Pope in Rome, of all places, with an ear to God.
Yes.
He's got it going on because he's the one who talks to God regularly, and he's the one that dispenses to us. So you can see how religion has been part of this control structure.
I always thought the Pope was just there to make sure St. Peter doesn't come back. Right now, Bishop James is going to kill me if he heard that. I'm just saying. It was just a joke.
The curiosity, let's stagnate a little bit with religion per se. Let's jump back to Solomon. Let's go back on these holy relics, probably the most sought after being, the Ark of the Covenant, and the Templars. I've got Templar lineage, so I'm always very curious about people's research on them. I'm trying to word this properly. We know they went to the Temple Mount. We know they found something. I've always personally believed that rich men don't give up their wealth to go treasure hunting. I believe if they're going to give up their wealth, they're going to do it for something much more significant. Do you think that they found something there and brought it to the west here.
I do.
Ah.
My foray into esoteric publishing was with a book by Lon Milo Duquette, who's pretty famous with tarot and other parts of Kabbalah understanding and different esoteric learnings. I call him the White Whiz. He's great.
Right.
And we met many times. And I published the book called The Key to Solomon's Key. This, the Lost Key of Solomon. It's now in its second edition. It's still in print.
I think I actually own it.
I was thinking, I was a traveler, really. I was a travel writer, and that was my gig. And a co-publishing project came along, and it was highly recommended. And I was like, wow, this is a great book. And it gave the full history of the Knights Templar going to Jerusalem. And in the Key to Solomon's Key, Lon Milo Duquette is a very high-level Freemason and is kind of revealing maybe a bit more than they wanted him to, but cat's out of the bag now.
Right.
And yeah, indeed, the poor knights of the temple, as they were originally known, the poor knights took a vow of chastity, and all of a sudden their order became fantastically wealthy.
Right.
Very much so that they had the largest sailing and trading and shipping fleet in a mere 150 years. So this is with all the crusades going on. They came there from Europe. Many were of noble descent. So the Templars were very ingenious. They were the first international bankers.
Yes.
And they created these ciphers that could only be opened by one of theirs in a distant land. So a knight could put their wealth on reserve, and that would be in the cipher, and it could be opened in Jerusalem, for example, and that knight would have all their wealth. That's international banking.
Right.
But I think they found something at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and I've been there twice now. And you can go under the Temple Mount man-made passageways.
Wow.
And a lot of the Orthodox Jews, that's the Western Wall, that's where they're praying, that's one of the entrances. And so the Knights Templar had found something that made them fantastically wealthy, so much so that many of the kings of Europe were indebted. And so on Friday the 13th, and that's where the day comes from, they conspired with the Pope in Rome, who also was very concerned of their rising power, and rounded up and arrested all of the Knights Templars that they could catch.
That's right.
Now that very advanced sailing fleet conveniently went poof.
Yes.
No one knows where it ended up. I think out here all the way to North America. And you can find quite a few Templar engravings in New England and up the riverways around there. And
how about this one for you?
Into Canada.
Wisconsin.
All the way to Wisconsin, too.
The Mohican Reservation.
Going on right now.
I could connect you with someone right there if you really wanted to speak with him about it. It's a new discovery.
Where about in Wisconsin?
It's on the Mohican Reservation.
So it's a private location.
It's a private location, yes. And you would need to speak with a man named Wayne Murphy. He's been on the show. He's wonderful. And he's very open to talking about it. But obviously there's proper channels because he has people to answer to as well. Right? Yes, but it just goes to show you, it's just adding to what you're saying. There's a discovery being made here all over North America, really. We have Kathleen Ann Ball, who also predates her discovery in Brazil and found a Templar cave that predates Columbus. Like, it's happening.
You got the guys with Tamar. Yeah.
Yeah, and the relic hunters in Tamar with the Templar horde that's never ever
it's not just Oak Island.
Yeah, no, it's not just Oak Island.
They just have a better TV contract than everyone else.
Yeah, exactly, and they never quite find anything there either. It's funny.
Lots of wood. I'll leave that right there. Lots of wood, but yes. So they definitely did find something. They've never found anything significant here as of yet, but it is a curiosity. I like that you mentioned it because it just shows that, again, you're getting away from mainstream academics and, no, this can't be a thing, It's just, yes, it can be, and it's being proven all over the dang world.
He's got some pretty amazing evidence there.
Absolutely. So now we jump again even forward when you talk about the Templars being world bankers. A lot of people don't realize that the United States of America, for example, because you make mention of London also in here, the city of London, are actually corporations. We are technically, well, I'm not American, but technically its residents are assets.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a bit? People probably going here right now going,
71. Right. Well, you have some of that information in the control section, but I saved the Act of 1871 for a section in the new book Beyond Esoteric, called The New Fascism, or I call it Neo-Fascism. Right. And part of that is understanding that we have been sold down the river.
Sold down the river, exactly.
We're traded on Dun & Bradstreet. That's why all our official documents, from birth certificate to driver's license, all our names are in caps, right? So that is your straw man. That is who you're operating on as the interceding with the corporate entity of the USA Corporation.
Wow.
Which is now bankrupt, and we're about to see one of the most spectacular collapses in history. In fact, a lot of these institutions that we're talking about, religion as well, everything is going to start, cracks are forming, and the house of cards could come down very, very quickly around all this stuff, and government too. So it's also a scary time. But that's why the Chinese character for crisis means danger, but also opportunity. And this could be the opportunity for the human race to propel us in this great leap forward if we're not too scared and freaked out about it. Because then you're feeding the archons. Right. And that is what the controllers would like to happen. So they're going to try to scare us. They think we're little kids. We can't handle the truth. And I wouldn't even put it past them not to do the fake alien invasion called Project Bluebeam. Yeah. But I think as people understand it and see it for the fakery that it is, that it will once again spectacularly fail, and historians of future time will probably be laughing about our period.
I agree.
I'd love your comment on this. We know, we all here know of people who are making documentaries about their experiences, and they are profiting, a millionfold, not tenfold on their stories. Do you ever feel like it's a possibility that they've been planted there as well, so that you're chasing that one idea?
I'm not sure that they are making tons of money, though. I mean,
I don't know. I'm not going to name the name, but that person charges a ton of money to speak.
Oh, no, not really. Yeah. I mean, I go to conferences all the time. I hardly ever even get paid. I do it.
No, he gets paid. I guarantee you. I don't want to say it on air, but you do know who I'm speaking of, right? It was by Doctor.
Either way.
Okay. Sorry, Michelle, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
What you're trying to say basically is that some people, whether, making a lot of money or not, I think there's going to be a lot of distractions. I think, and I hate to say it, but sometimes when you get these big protests, for example, they've been doing this for 2 years. I wonder if it's often a distraction for something else we're not seeing. And I think what you're trying to say is that we're being, people are pulling us into different directions, maybe for the wrong reasons. Is that what you're?
Yeah, that's what I'm inferring. Like, is he really speaking about his experience, or is this not just him? There's a few of them like him that are running on Netflix, and people really are taken in by them. And I wonder if this is a great distraction because we're getting too close to the real story. Yes.
Okay.
Well, didn't the Bible say, beware of false prophets? There would be people that are going to say they know what they know. I always say, look, if I am wrong, I'll admit it and apologize and try to always just be on the up and up and positive. But as far as false flags, I mean, they just don't work anymore because we're awakened to them, and we've been tricked so many times.
Yep.
And there's still no justice for 9/11, and many of the mass shootings were fake. And you can always see the agenda behind it, what's driving it, and what they're trying to get out of it. And it was BLM and Antifa a couple of years ago, and now you get a bunch of Canadian truckers, and they're worse. They're the terrorists now.
I heard America starting on the 23rd. Just saying. But
gonna be an interesting next couple weeks and months. I'll tell you that.
But if anything, we're still some sort of an inspiration for unity, though. I guess whether you support it or not, it's kind of refreshing to see people being unified.
In the beginning, it is.
But is it? But I always say when I see something this of this magnitude, what is it we're not seeing? Like, what are we being distracted from while we're all focusing on this? Is there something going on in the background? Because, right? Exactly.
When isn't there, I'd say.
Exactly. And I also don't think people realize that there is a shadow government that we, I hear people say, about politicians, you work for me, I voted you in. And then I sit there in the background, I'm going, no, they work for somebody else entirely.
And what about all the honeypots, all the people that got trapped and bribed and blackmailed? That's all going to start coming out. I've heard it's up to 90% of our members of Congress.
You can thank the Kennedys for starting that.
That are compromised in one way or another. Yeah, there's a lot of blame to go around.
But the Kennedys really did start that. It came out, like you saw it. It was in everybody's faces because of who they linked themselves with. And then they went after them. That is very common of politicians nowadays. Without getting into politics, good Lord. But my point with the documentarian is that, sometimes I wonder, because the first documentary is so sincere and you're grabbed, it pulls you in and you're like, oh my gosh, she's so right. And then you watch these other documentaries that any of them make, and you're just wondering, who's paying you to put this out? Like, it's getting to the ridiculous point. And is it just because you don't want anyone else to find out what's really happening? And they were all being promoted at the time of when we were supposed to get the so-called disclosure. They were being heavily pushed then.
The disclosure thing makes me kind of laugh a little bit with the military, because you have people with camera phones getting amazing stuff. And you look at the military, and here's our TikTok, and you're just like, what is that? What is it exactly?
Yeah.
People are getting pretty amazing things. You can't with when you're sitting here with a camera phone that takes better pictures than many cameras, and they're capturing things in the sky, and they're having these really amazing experiences with ET, so to speak. Interplanetary, wherever they're coming from. There are actually people having phenomenal experiences. They're not all scary. And yet, again, military and government, no, fear it. And whistleblowers, ex-Navy, ex-CIA, ex-government, our own, our Paul Hillier, who's Canadian. He came out and just like let it all out.
After retirement, though, not while he was working. Just saying.
Still, they're under gag order. You have to abide by that to a degree, right? Especially when you're military. But astronauts were coming forward and saying, no, there were things on the moon.
Yeah.
Let me just sneak in here. I need to do a station ID.
It's sponsor time. Sorry.
Yeah, it's business. We are live on 105.3 FM radio in the gorgeous city of New Orleans. And you are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche, myself, and our amazing guest, Brad Olsen. We are streaming on YouTube, of course, if you're watching us right now. UFO Paranormal International Public UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials Radio, as well as many Facebook group pages, as well as our own. We have about 200 platforms that we are streaming on as well, with Spotify and iHeart and Podbean, and SoundCloud is our favorite. A huge thank you to award-winning composer, Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, for our fabulous intro and outro. You can find his music and purchase his music on Amazon and Bandcamp. And you can also find him on social media on Facebook and Instagram. A massive thank you to the ones who have been with us from the beginning and believed in us forever. I hope Folgers Coffee, not only great to wake up to, but great in your cup all day long. Thank you, Folgers Coffee.
Thank you.
Without your support, we couldn't be here.
So yeah, we're just sitting here having our minds blown. So
yeah, business part is over.
Have a sit down. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so where do you want to go from here? Because honestly, it just you get into so many interesting things. Just for people who may be thinking about getting the book, this is where you start. Yes. Book one. I mean, they talk about, sacred geometry, the secret families I find extremely interesting. Bohemian Grove I find extremely interesting, which is all part of all of the control. And then you're getting, the control part to me is really unbelievable because you get into symbols here, things that people just see every day, and you have no idea. There's a whole hidden world.
Secret families, do you give off surnames?
Yeah.
Do you give that information out?
Oh, yeah. I list
really
13 bloodline families.
Right.
Mostly European. Mostly European Italian.
Yeah, I know.
Almost all them originate from.
My family built Pisa. My dad's family. Yeah. So that's why I'm so curious about that. Because my great, I'm a real Pisano. My dad's great grandfather was buried at the foot of the bell tower. He also had started the construction of it, which was continued 100 years later. But through research, I found that there were 7 shiploads of sand from the holy city in Jerusalem shipped over there, and part of it was used to bury him. And I need to know why.
So. Yeah, Brad, what do you know?
I need to know why.
Why not? Well, so keep this in mind. When the Templars were taken down and we're still in the control section of modern esoteric about halfway through, that not only was Switzerland never a country, it was only founded shortly after the Templars got taken down. Oh. Why? Because they could find safe refuge, and they knew all the routes over the Alps mountains. So they were already settling in the valleys and had safe houses along the way, kind of like the Pony Express had little refreshment stations every 50 miles or so. Right. Same thing with the Templars. So when they got taken down by the King of France, who is greatly indebted, and the Pope Pius, who was it, 6 maybe? He was also extremely corrupt. Mm-hmm. Jacques Molay, their headmaster, being burned at the stake, said, cursed both the Pope and the French king that you would be dead within a year. Sure enough, both were.
Yeah, the curses came true.
So the Templars had to go underground, and there's a great book, if you can still get it, called what is it? The Blood of Freemasonry, maybe something like that. Mm-hmm. It describes in no uncertain terms that the Templars, after going underground, became Freemasonry. Born in blood, it's called. And Freemasonry is born in blood, born in the blood of the Templars. So they went underground for a couple centuries. Switzerland, famously neutral, famously the banker country, famously out of every war, never destroyed.
Yes.
Has been the seat of power of the Western world. That, along with the Empire of 3 Cities. So I really call it Switzerland because it is the banks of international settlements is there. That's the central bank.
To this day.
They also control the security of the Vatican.
That's right.
I mean, Vatican City does have their own security. They're dressed what I call like Harlequins, but they do have their own security. But I mean,
from Switzerland,
they are underground where the library is. I mean, Dan Brown showed it, but you can look it up and you can Google it. It doesn't all have to come from the Da Vinci Code. But and they're the only ones who have arms, who are allowed to be armed in the Vatican as well, or the Swiss.
And so isn't it interesting? And there are supposed to be underground tunnels connecting the two that have just been being taken out recently and are known about, as well as extending the Vatican to Jerusalem, which is lined with gold that
I think the ones they're using right now and they have been using will never be exposed, not for a long time. They weren't always blocked. There's no way. There's way too many secrets there.
Well, just consider the Vatican is one of the 3 empires of 3 cities. All 3 have an occult obelisk in the middle. St. Peter's Square has one they got out of Egypt. Along the River Thames at the 1 mile city of London, within London City, is Cleopatra's Needle, another Egyptian obelisk. And then the 3rd city is Washington, D.C., which is a city-state within the U.S., and that's the military arm, and the obelisk is, of course, the Washington Monument. So there's hidden in plain sight occult symbolism all over the place with these locations. And the fact that Switzerland is not only the banking hub as well, like the City of London, but also tied to the Vatican with the Swiss Guard and so much more. And,
and the protection.
They need a standing army. They need protection. Yeah, they need a police force. They need the U.S. to have 156 bases in foreign countries around the world.
Yeah, Roman officers are not allowed in Vatican City as in uniform. They're allowed as parishioners, but they're not allowed to be on the premises. Their law doesn't stand in the Vatican. They have to stand back, tell the Vatican police, and they take care of it from there. And then the Swiss come in like RCSIS or CIA kind of thing. But yeah, there's a lot to it. But my great-great-grandfather was buried long before the Templars were even out there. It was the 1100s when he first started.
In Pisa?
Yeah. He was Gerardo. He was the initial guy. It's just crazy how it goes. And then my mom's side, my grandmother, where I get all my gifts from, her maiden name is Barone, which is Baron, and you can trace their family lineage back to Borgia. I'm just like, I really need a year with a few historians to figure out, because it makes a lot of sense on why I am crazy like I am, but I need to understand more, because I used to think that it was all one-sided till you start doing that research. And having an uncle who works in the government does help, but you're limited as well. Pisa's easy because I just spoke to them in the museum. It's very easy. They'll give you anything. But my mom's is a whole other secret. Coming back from the Basque and from Spain. My daughter's name is Italian for Xavier. Her name is Saverina. I named her after my mom. It's the Italian form of Xavier, feminine form. And I'm like, where the hell did this come from? Basque.
Of course, you have the Medici banking families that trace their lineage all the way out to the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
And so that wealth has been retained within those family bloodlines for hundreds of years.
Well, they still have their castles. They still have them. They're still living in them.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they?
Well, you can really get into some amazing conspiracy stuff, right down to when Notre Dame burned down. All this money surfaced.
If I could only have been a fly on the wall, then I want to watch everything going out of there.
You mean a couple of years ago?
Yeah, when they were taking all that stuff out.
See the reflection of Notre Dame burning in Michael's glasses. Who was there right there on the Seine River.
Hamilton. Hello. What are you doing
Hamilton.
Up so late, my friend? One of the relic hunters himself.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart.
Yes,
Go ahead, read it off.
Don't know why you're awake though, Hamilton.
I know, because I'm in England.
The sand from the Holy Land actually came via Venice. The state of Venice secured the exclusive rights to export sand from the Holy Land when they started the glass industry by bringing Byzantine glassmakers. Thank you, Hamilton. In the 12th century, sand from there was the composition considered better than anything in Europe. That's what they buried him in.
Hamilton.
Hamilton, I need to buy you a beer. When I get to England, of course.
Don't get him started. So, so can we get back to the occult? Why is this so important to people on the outside? I don't want to just go in and say elite, and I just don't want to be poking fingers at everybody, but why do you think this is such a big thing, and why is it being practiced in high levels of society? There we go. We'll just put it that way. High levels of society and wealth, and yes.
Do you remember the great industrialist Aristotle Onassis married
Jacqueline Kennedy?
Jackie
O.
Yeah, I never understood that, but yeah.
Well, he had a famous quote that said, "Getting rich is knowing something nobody else knows." So if you have a way to corner the market, and in his case, he was a shipping magnate, he was able to finance ships at the right time, work with different shipping lines and oil at the right time, and got in there. He knew something somebody else didn't know, and he became fabulously wealthy. Well, if you think about the bloodline families, they have had controlling interests on a number of very essential businesses for generations. Look at banking, how that's been in certain families, how the ownership of our own Federal Reserve in this country is owned by these bloodline families in Europe that we don't even know all their names. Think we know who they are, but for the most part, our financial system got hijacked. And was it Nathan Rothschild? One of them said several hundred years ago, "I care not who makes the laws, just give me control of the money supply and I'll control that country." And oh boy, did they ever do that, just exactly as foretold. So we have this this parasite, and they are the elite, and they wish to retain their control. They don't want to give away their secrets. They don't like competitors. And in some ways, they're burdened by the rest of us, especially when we start waking up and calling a spade, right? And calling them out on, and many times they're crimes. Yeah, they have acted criminally in this conglomeration of wealth, power, and control. And it's holding the human race back. We have to shake this parasitic entity. It is very similar to the archonic network of these energy vampires. It is a form of vampirism. And isn't it interesting that a lot of the elite are known to do these occultish rituals?
Ancient rituals.
And some of it even goes into sacrificing humans and blood rituals and a lot of really nasty things we probably shouldn't even talk about. But
yes.
Everything will be revealed, and a lot of it is going to shock people to the core.
Do you believe they are still making these sacrifices today?
We're trying to, but we're catching up with them. And there are a lot of groups that are chasing them down. There is a little chapel in the Vatican. Another author with CCC Publishing is Leo Lion-Zagami, and he lived in Rome for many years. And he wrote a tell-all, an expose, and talked about this little chapel of Probiscus right inside Vatican City that had some connections through a tunnel, and they can do everything without ever stepping a foot outside.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so there's a lot of things. I mean, they call people recovering Catholics for a reason, because when they start waking up to a lot of the horrors and a lot of these pedophile priests that just got away and moved from place to place, it's very traumatic. And my own mother and half of my family came out of that. And good thing they didn't force any of that on me or my brother or sister. They just kind of said, all right, here's a clean slate. You guys figure it out. And I think that was the best way to raise kids. Just no dogma, no Sunday school, no nothing. Just you figure it out. And so what did I do? I got a backpack and I traveled around the world and studied all the religions and cultures wherever I could. And that has given me my worldview. And I do believe that spirituality is as unique as our own fingerprint.
I agree.
You want to see God? Look in the mirror. You're looking at him.
Oh, believe you and me, I'm grateful to drop those 10 commandments. Just saying.
It's funny because when in the paranormal,
I've broken a few.
in the paranormal world, people who look who have alleged demonic attachments or experiences, it's funny because the Buddhists, they don't ever seem to happen to people who have the Buddhism faith.
No,
they're just so enlightened.
Meditation won't allow that.
Exactly, they're so enlightened that it's just something that it just doesn't seem to affect them at all. The ones that are affected the most are the Catholics.
Yeah,
I can say that because I spent 20 years in the field.
So much about demons and possession and exorcism.
Yes.
So isn't it interesting when you call it in?
Yes.
That's what you get. So be careful what you wish for because it might come true.
I completely agree with that.
It's all mindset and manifestation. But the newer generation, I'm pleased to say, because I still have family there, are adopting Buddhism over Roman Catholicism right now.
In Italy.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, Buddhism in its purest form is a philosophy.
Yeah.
It's just a way of living. And the Buddha himself always said, don't make a religion out of this. Don't worship me. Don't build statues. Don't do it.
Right.
Of course, they did. But
right.
at its core, if you just follow the Buddhist teachings, much like Jesus, as I mentioned earlier, is just eternal truth. And so one of the things when Buddha was achieving his own enlightenment, he fought with the demons who tried to tempt him in many different ways and get him off his track. And he just had to say, as earth is my witness, I have reached this state. And none of these archonic entities could get through. And it became his spiritual shield. And so that is part of what meditation and part of Buddhist teachings people will gather from it, is that they can build their own personal shield. And it's this philosophy. It's this way of living, correct living. And he goes through the noble truths and the fourfold ways and all these steps to help people, common people, illiterate people, better understand. And there's really no dogma in philosophy. It is just, it feels right to you. If you can do it and see discernible objectives being met and a peace of mind, isn't that the most important thing these days? Your spirituality is as unique as your own fingerprint.
Yeah. They're getting lost in technology. That's the problem. I think the new generation in Italy, the big thing was when yoga really, really, really hit the mainstream and they started doing that kind of yoga and stuff that they they brought with the Kundalini.
Possessed if you do yoga.
So I think that helped them open their eyes, and then the internet as well helped them open their eyes and their hearts to the way things are done differently around the world. You know, there's some positives with social media and the internet. Not all of it's a toilet bowl, but
I think I think people go through stages with religion. Like Kabbalah is a big one. For tons of celebrities kind of jumped on the Kabbalah board. For
Madonna.
Her as well.
She was huge.
Why do people go through these cycles? Because that's not exactly the most, unless we have it backwards, the most enlightening of religions. Luciferianism is coming back. That's a real big one now. But there are people who believe that everything is opposite. There are people who believe that because the Catholics preach to be this, for example, that if you flip it, that's what Luciferianism is. Do we have it wrong? Seriously, do we have it wrong as to what we're all doing? Because honestly, when I look at, I have friends who are Luciferians, and they have, go back to the Rosicrucians, and it really runs deep with the secret societies, as you know. But I mean, they really do preach love and light. And they're not all going to war, let's say, like the Christians did, killing men, women, and children, all in the name of God. Like, do we have it wrong?
Yeah, killing's always wrong.
I know.
It's the first commandment too. I mean,
I haven't broken that one.
Oops, sorry, that was me.
I haven't broken that one.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
no, I work with law enforcement.
If you have,
yeah, it would be so wrong. I would never work with another cop again if I did that.
Well, as much as I'd love to get into the whole health part of this, YouTube would probably throw the show off.
I know.
So, yeah, they're frowning upon giving bad health information.
Sorry, I hope I didn't say any forbidden
words. No. There's a whole section of this book that I would have loved to have talked about.
Oh, yeah, well,
but then they probably would have flagged the show. That's not great information. I know. But I would love to do a show on it sometime and just not stream it on YouTube, so we could actually talk about all of the stuff, because they're the only ones that are very sensitive about it. But we are coming towards the end of the show, and I'd like whatever you want to touch on quickly, and then I want you to tell everybody how to find you, how to find the books, promote.
Sure. Well, we were going to do a talk on modern esoteric, beyond our senses.
Yes.
And the third section of the book is called Thrive, and it's basically how we can strengthen our bodies, detoxify ourselves. Chapter called Living to 200.
Yes.
A lot of counteractions we can take.
Yes.
To be healthy, wealthy in spirit, and wise.
Yes.
That also goes into how we can start to enhance ourselves, our decalcify our pineal gland, for example. There is a chapter in Modern Esoteric about, excuse me, the pineal gland.
Yeah, that we could talk about. Yeah, everybody does that on it. That's fine. Yes. I just say you had the V word in there. I was like, oh, I think we should touch on that one.
Still say pineal gland, I hope.
We can. Oh, yes.
Yeah, we're still not yet. They haven't done it yet.
How V's aren't good for us. We get a little hostile about that this day and age. But
C's with numbers.
That too. Yes. But decalcifying the pineal gland is a big one. People don't realize this is something that even the ancients were aware of. Like, this is a thing. And it does get calcified. Why do you think they wouldn't want us to use that ability?
Well, once again, we would get out of their control. If you can see the prison planet you're in.
Yes.
For example, the best way to keep a prisoner from escaping is to make sure he or she never knows they're in prison, right?
Right.
The greatest trick the devil ever played on us, which I think are reptilians.
90% of the narcissists.
It never existed. So they are propagating this whole idea that the conversation we've had for 2 hours doesn't exist. It's all make-believe, yet it resonates in your mind and my mind and hopefully your listeners, because
I'm sure
when you hear it and you know it's the truth, then that becomes your new reality. So what we're doing is deconstructing this giant false matrix that has been built up around us since the time of the pharaohs, when humans were living gods and we worshiped them as such, and it was all to keep humans contained. Well, this is the time when we're finally breaking from that programming and are able to start to see things the way it really is. And so I conclude the chapters in Modern Esoteric with reincarnation and the evidence that we really are, like the bumper sticker says, we're not humans having a spiritual experience. We're all spirits here doing the human thing right now in these bodies. And our time here is very temporary. There are ET races that are very human-like that can live many hundreds of years. And we have that potential too, if we take the right steps to treat this body as a temple and do the very best we can to be in service to all. And every single one of us has a role to play in this.
I like what you said, in service to all.
Yes.
That's the
what
key,
it's all about.
It?
Because then you transcend all the agendas, all the greed, all those lower emotions that you're never going to have enough, all this scarcity. Right. No. We're just helping each other out as all advanced races do. Even the reptilians do not let any of their own fall between the cracks. Not like humans do. 1 in 5 of us are going to bed starving tonight. Yeah, can't even make a meal. Just hungry again.
But we're a planet that just everything eats everything as well. Like it's if you think about it.
Well, we're only about as good as our lowest common denominator. So for every person that's starving to death tonight, there you go. There's the human race for you. So we have to go beyond this. We got to start taking care of our own, and we got to be good custodians of this planet and restore the healthy vibrancy of Mother Earth, because that too has gone very awry.
Do you think that you have ETs reaching out to help with that?
Well, I think once these speed bumps have been taken out, and we can really act as we all know we should, that this is going to be second nature. Of course, we're going to do good for the planet, for each other, and for
we just
ourselves.
have to lose the amnesia. Like we're a species with amnesia.
Well, that too.
Right.
And that's why understanding that you're a spirit having the human experience is vitally important. And then you can start to transcend and perhaps not have to come back here. If you kill someone, for example, you will experience all the pain and suffering and all the other negatives, but also all the positives upon your death. It's not St. Peter judging you. It's you seeing what you've done in your lifetime. So that's what I call the real philosopher's stone. Once you really understand that every thought and every action and everything you do in life matters and is only going to reflect upon you, you're going to be the best person you can possibly be in every thought, action, and deed that there is.
True.
And that's how we ascend. That's really how the human race comes together, and we break the shackles and escape the prison planet. That's the way out, people. Just told you at the very end there. But yeah, if you want to check out my books, you can go to cccpublishing.com, and if you order books through that website, they come through my office and I can sign copies for people. If you want to know more about me and the projects I'm working on, including my schedule for conferences that I'll be speaking at, including this weekend is my first conference of 2022 in San Jose, California at the Mystical Minds.
Ooh, very nice.
They're Saturday and Sunday, and then next month in Sedona, Arizona, on the spring equinox. 4-day conference.
That's where you want to be.
Then in Mount Shasta, 4-day conference early
That's
April.
also where you want to be.
Another Mount Shasta summer conference in July, and Gaia Sphere in Boulder, Colorado in September. And
nice.
Los Angeles Disclosure Fest in June. So I think every month I got something going on.
Wow,
that's nice.
Fantastic.
A lot to look forward to.
Yeah, good for you. That's
and
fantastic.
I love to meet people, and I'll have copies of my books at all those events. So if there's any one of them you come to, please come over, say hi, and we'll chit chat as we're doing tonight.
If you're anywhere near the Springs, I have a great restaurant you can go visit. He's also a celebrity chef. He's been on Food Network. So if you're anywhere near Colorado Springs when you're there, let me know and I'll give you all his info.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I am, again, I am just mind blown, and I thank you for coming on, and I'm still making my way through. This will be my second time going through it, but I'm very thorough. I love to research, and I find you miss so much. You go through it one time, and I'm in my second time. I'm like, did I not see this? I'm sure I saw this, but it's fantastic. So I highly recommend all you people listening out there to go out and get these books, and I will be in touch. I'd like to do it again if you're willing to come on and tackle, another one of your books, or we could put something together. And because from what I understand, we are being nominated again for another People's Choice Award. And
great. Congratulations.
Thank you. You
guys are both great. I'd love to come on again.
Oh, thank you.
Future Esoteric is book 2, and that
gets
into the alien ET disclosure, secret state, and how it all got covered up.
Yep.
And then we can go into Beyond Esoteric. So we'll save 2 more shows for the 2 more books.
I love it.
Cool. Sounds good.
I love it. So we will definitely do that, because being nominated, even more people come on and listen to see what all the buzz is about. So we'll give them something to buzz about. So thank you very much. And I will be in touch with you. We can look at scheduling, and I will be in touch with you. I'll give you the numbers for tonight.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Doing it again. Thank you guys again for having me.
Thank you, Brad. Have a good day.
Outer Realm. It's been a weird, mysterious place, but I think we got through it together pretty good, didn't we?
It was awesome. Thank you.
No, this is fantastic.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Well, everybody, we have come to the end of another fantastic segment. I know it goes by so quick, and I wish we just had another hour. But thank you to everybody in chat room. You guys are fantastic. Thank you to Brad Olsen for just being fabulous. Thank you. Folgers Coffee, of course, for being with us from day one. We thank you. We appreciate you. Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker, for providing your voice and your music for our intro and outro. We thank you. Please remember to stop by United Public Radio, or shall I say UFO Paranormal Radio. Subscribe, get a membership, have some fun, look at the hidden content. Anybody that wants to contact us directly, the only way you're going to get a response is the outerrealmcontact@gmail.com. That's the outerrealmcontact@gmail.com. So next week we have Ryan Musgrave Evans returning to the show, talking about crypto terrestrials. I know. Enjoyed it the first time. Can't wait to see what he's got for us this time. Thursday evening brings the return of our dear friend Nick Redfern, who's going to be discussing also extraterrestrials, negative blood type connections, and such. So everybody's looking forward to the Gray Zone this Saturday. Sorry, my fault this time. It's not going to be a thing. I know.
No.
I'm only one dang person. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh.
I'm only one darn person. So I do apologize, but you're going to have to wait a couple weeks. I'm only one dang person.
Sorry. That was me going on our site.
Just like rubbing it in. Anyway. Thank you, guys. Everybody, behave yourselves, and we shall definitely see you next week.
You have been listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, airing live every Wednesday and Thursday evening, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 to 10 p.m. Central, on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.